now. All right, making sure I'm on time, on track. Let's see. Ha! I see it. We're here. It's happening. Very good. I was getting things together last minute, and that's what I get. All right. Oh, and that is loud. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give everybody a second to get on here since I was a second late in trying to get things together. I hope you're all doing well. I don't know about you guys, but it feels a little bit more like winter today here, so that is always a fun time. But yeah, honestly, everything's going well. Hope the same for you all. There's a lot to go over today, so if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to let me know. My name is Jolene. I'm a certified songbird feeding specialist with Wild Birds Unlimited of Concord, and today we will be discussing the Great Backyard Bird Count, as well as some tips and tricks for songbird identification. So there will be a lot to it, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Definitely let me know as well, too. Once again, I hope you're all having a great morning, and I hope you're ready to count some birds, because that is what this weekend is all about. So, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. What exactly is the Great Backyard Bird Count? Some of you might have heard of it, some of you may not have, and that could be why you're joining me today. So the Great Backyard Bird Count was basically the first online community science project to help collect data on wild birds in real time. It's a 4-day event, which for this month, it always happens in February. It's ranging from the 17th through the 20th, so we're actually smack dab in the middle of it right now. Over time, it's become a world bird watching event. It was originally launched in 1998 by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and the National Audubon Society. Kind of focused more on the United States, but with the addition of Birds Canada in 2009, that influence kind of spread. And then with the addition of eBird, which is a website and a phone application, which is a website that helps track local hotspots for birding and the latest sightings. Basically, it turned it into a huge global project by 2013. So at this point in time, it's all over the place, and it's definitely a worldwide event that people actually participate in, which is a whole lot of fun. So we're on the second day of the bird count as well. The way it works is it's super easy to participate in. If you have any further questions too, the website for the bird count is birdcount.org, which makes that really easy. But the way that you participate is you don't need to pre-register or anything like that for the event itself, but basically you're going to go somewhere to watch your birds for 15 minutes minimum, whether that's your yard, a park, a hiking trail, at your workplace. It doesn't really matter as long as you've got a spot with birds that you can count. While you're watching them for that 15 minutes or more, you're going to count the number of species that you see and the number of individuals that you see, and you'll actually take that checklist and you'll either upload the information onto ebird.org or the eBird app, which allows you to kind of keep that checklist as you're watching the birds in real time. Or you can also use Merlin ID, especially if you're just starting to get into the birding thing and you're not really sure which birds you're looking at. Merlin ID is a great resource, and any submissions that you put into Merlin ID do get counted towards the bird count as well. So just to give you an idea of what exactly this does, over the years, the participation has only continued to increase, and it basically gives scientists a 4-day snapshot of the bird populations around the world. So last year in 2022, 192 countries reported approximately 3/4 of the world's known species, which I don't know about you, but that is a lot of birds and a lot of different species to keep track of, which is so exciting and so darn cool over 4 days. And the fact that so many different places and people participated is amazing. It was able to give scientists some really cool information. Some of the standard flock highlights that they found of like large populations of birds congregating together included snow geese found in Missouri, common redpoll flocks happening around Canada, 30,000 sooty shearwaters appeared off the coast of Chile, and then large flocks of Bohemian waxwings were starting to be found in Canada as well. So scientists were able to find out, okay, there's a lot of these very social birds that are congregating on the move for migration. Not only that, but there was a really cool surprise sighting for a lot of those in the northeastern parts of the U.S. with the Steller sea eagle. The Steller sea eagle is not found in the U.S. normally. It's found in Asia. This poor bird was so lost that he made it all the way over here, and it was a very interesting sighting to be able to see and watch his journey across the U.S. as well, too. So that was always an interesting thing. And those things would not have been possible without the help of the community and those people that enjoy watching birds and updating this information. Because definitely, while scientists are really good at their job and they're really awesome, there's only so many of them. So having us on the ground taking a sight of all these birds really helps them out in the long run as well, too. And yeah, I see somebody saying Merlin is great, which is fantastic. I'm honestly not the best at using it, but it's such a good, easy resource. We're going to go over that in a second one. And hello, Eileen. That's always fun. That's my mom. Hello. So with Merlin ID, for those that, again, are just getting used to identifying your birds or are not really sure how to participate or just kind of getting used to it, Merlin is a fantastic resource for new and experienced birders alike. It's easy to use. It has the option for photo ID and sound ID, and it also has international birding packs. So if you're going across the world, you can still access the types of birds you might see in that area. It's also available in multiple languages, so it's really good to use no matter where you are. And yeah, depending on the country and all that stuff, it provides really good information. So the way to use this app is this is actually the home screen once you register and make an account. You would start your bird ID if there's a bird that you saw that you're not too sure of. It's going to ask you a list of a few different questions. So where did you see the bird, what day you saw it, what the size was, what the colors are. So for example, there's a pond behind the store that we'll occasionally check out to see who's there. And we had a waterfowl species that I didn't know, or maybe I did, but I didn't know technically. And so I wanted to double check what that was. So I knew the waterfowl itself was between the size of a crow and a goose. So I kind of clicked this one. I knew it was mostly black and gray. And then what the bird was doing, it was swimming or wading in the pond. So from there, Merlin ID actually gives you a few options that it could be depending on the area that you're in. In this case, it was a female bufflehead. So I was able to say that this is my bird. And once you do that and say, like save my bird and everything like that, that actually gets updated for the Great Backyard Bird Count as well too. Of course, this is a great resource outside of the bird count, but it makes it very easy to participate as well in case there's species that you want to point out, but maybe aren't quite too sure on how to do that. So overall, super simple app to use. There are, the different types of birding packs depending on your location, so it makes it so you're not shuffling through this whole list of birds you might not know about as well. So that's always fun too. Now, on the side of eBird, which is a great option for submitting your checklists and the birds that you've identified, there's two ways to do this. There's the phone app, which I use, and that makes it very easy while I'm birding. And then there's also the online website as well, too. So we're actually going to switch gears over there. Oh, somebody said they found a mandarin drake today. That's so exciting. I love that. So when you're on eBird, basically what will happen is you'll have to go to submit. You won't really, yeah, you can see that tab. Perfect. You'll have to make an account here as well. You'll submit a checklist and it'll ask you to choose from your locations, in which case we're going to say my personal residence. That's all good. We're going to say we started today. Let's say it was stationary. We weren't really moving around, but you can go hiking and everything like that when you're doing things. You have to give a start time and for how long you were birding as well. Oh, and someone's got a hawk's nest. That's so exciting. I love that. So I'm going to say today at 11, or maybe yesterday, who knows. Let's say yesterday at 11 o'clock, I was birding for 30 minutes when I was supposed to be doing my job. Maybe Sarah Beth was with me and we were having a very good time. Okay, so once I've got that basic information input, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And it's going to give me this really long list of birds that sometimes is a little bit intimidating, so we're not going to completely look at all this. But what we're going to do, and also, surprise, surprise, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I can move, oh wait, no, that's the wrong button. I can move my face, which will be very helpful for this second thing. So we're going to move my face. All right, so there is a fancy search bar here that is really helpful in regards to finding your birds. So let's say, for example, and again, this list is kind of tagged towards my area, so it's not going to show me all the different bluebirds that there are, or all the different wrens, or all that kind of stuff. It's going to show me what's more commonly in my area unless I look for it as well too. So I know that when I was watching birds, I did see a few bluebirds. I saw a male and a female at 2 different times, so I'm going to count them. I did see some cardinals as well too. And at that point, I got my northern cardinal. So I actually saw 4 cardinals at the same time there. And let's say I also saw some chickadees. So I've got the Carolina chickadee in my area. And actually, I really only saw 1 because it kept bouncing back and forth. I didn't see more than 1 at any time. So I was going to say that there's just 1 at the moment. So When you've got your checklist input in, you're actually going to go ahead and click whether or not you are submitting a complete checklist or a partial checklist. So maybe you just wanted to add one species or anything like that. Then you're going to hit submit. It's going to ask you to confirm all that stuff, and you have just participated in the Great Backyard Bird Count. So that is how that process works as well. I'm not going to submit a checklist because I didn't actually check anything, but that is how that website works. It's overall relatively easy once you get the hang of it. It just might take a little bit of getting used to. If you know the alpha codes of any species, so alpha codes is how that's spelled, that is also a very easy way to find your bird. So for example, the northern cardinal is basically, it takes the 2 letters of the first and the second name, so that's NOCA. It'll still pop up northern cardinal as well too. There is an official list of alpha codes that you guys can look online in case that makes it easier and you don't want to continue to type anything like crazy. So that is how eBird works. It's overall very simple. It's just a matter of kind of getting used to it as well. If you're not a huge fan of phone apps and you kind of want to use a book option, there are many different books and styles to choose from. Of course, I can only speak for the southeast area of the US and the North American area, but I know there's a lot of different styles of birding books out there. Sibley, Audubon, and Peterson are very popular with the North American area. They organize the birds by family, have artistic sketches and renderings to show the birds in various poses and different significant factors to look at. So that's usually a very popular go-to. Crossley ID is kind of a new one where it actually just takes photos of the birds and kind of photoshops all the various poses on one page, which makes it very helpful if people don't quite like the drawings that happen with some of the older style birding books. It also does organize the birds by family, so that is one thing to consider when you're trying to look through them, but usually they have a very helpful index. Lastly, there are some books that focus on just specific areas. So you can get entire continents, specific sections of the country. You can also just get very small portions to local areas. Birds of the Carolinas is great for North and South Carolina. It organizes the birds by color, so that's a very different aspect compared to other birding books, and only has 1 or 2 photos per species, which makes it pretty easy to kind of just go through and get a general idea. So different types of books can give different types of things. Honestly, some people have more than one because you never know what one book will offer that others don't as well. So when you're looking for general songbird identification, maybe like you've tried to look up your birds and you're like, I can't find it. Doesn't matter what I do, I can't seem to get it right. I can never find the bird in the book. So then if you're having issues there, we need to take a step back and help you figure out how to ID your birds as well too. There's 5 major factors that you can kind of look into as you're trying to identify your birds: shape and size, color pattern, behavior, their overall habitat, and their song or call. Just to let you guys know as well too, in case you kind of haven't put this together, birds of the same taxonomic family will share similar traits. So we're going to pop over to All About Birds. They have a fantastic browsing option for overall taxonomies and families. So we're going to look at the wrens real quick, okay? One thing you might note, we have the Carolina wren here, as well as like the house wren and a few others, but you're going to note that all of the wrens are going to be about similar sizes, they have a similar shape, they have a similar beak, all this kind of stuff. Their calls can have a similar kind of warble as well too. And we're actually going to go down here. We've got mockingbirds and thrashers, okay? You're going to look, the tail size is the same, the kind of length of the beak curves differently. Some individuals are a little bit more different, but overall you've got very similar factors that you're kind of looking at. Bluebirds are a part of the thrushes and the allies. So if you look at bluebirds and you compare them to the thrushes, they've got a very similar shape and size. Robins are in the same family. We know robins are a little bit larger than bluebirds, but they've got the same shape. So once you kind of know the families, overall the general shape, then you can narrow down what kind of bird you're looking for as well too. So, and again, they might have similar habitats, similar eating behaviors, all that stuff. So once you kind of think about those, it can make it easier for narrowing stuff down. So that was kind of a big hint as well into shape and size. But honestly, sometimes when you're looking at a bird, maybe you're just stuck on, okay, it's big or it's small, or, what are you looking for, okay? So break down the bird into a few different sections. Look at the beak shape. Look at the head shape, the wings, the tail. Is the beak long, conical, pointed, stout? What are we looking at? Does the head have a crest? Does it have a really long neck or not? Does it look kind of like a golf ball? Are the wings super pointed and long, or are they very short? Is the tail notched? Is it pointed? Is it square? Like the wrens, does it hold it upright? The shape can be very distinctive and very helpful, especially if you don't have very good lighting to figure out the color. So the shape and the size should be what you're looking at first. When you compare the size of the bird to other birds, it makes it a little bit easier as well too. So chickadees are super small. If you tell me you saw a chickadee the size of a crow, I'm going to tell you I don't think that's quite right. I think we've got something else because the size tells us a lot as well. So it's a little bit smaller than a sparrow, about the same, like, yeah, pretty much. With the chickadees anyway. So keeping that stuff in mind is very helpful because when people try and explain what kind of bird they saw, it can be very hit or miss depending on what they're looking for. So taking these into consideration can be very helpful, especially if you only have a few seconds to watch the bird. Now, if you've got more time and you've got good lighting, focusing on the color pattern can also be very helpful. But of course, when you're looking at a bird, sometimes there's a lot to take in. So breaking it down into certain sections can be very helpful. First off, we're looking at the head. Does it have any eye rings or stripes or anything on the throat? What are we looking at? In this case, we have a white-throated sparrow, which of course has that white throat, but he also has little yellow eyebrows. So you can kind of put two and two together in that sense. On the wings, a lot of sparrows kind of have this brown and black streaking. Other birds might have bars or stripes along some of the secondary feathers. So it depends on which one you're looking at. On the chest, you can always look for, is it solid coloration? Are there lines? Are there spottings? Song sparrows have a dark patch of feathers right on the chest, which is different from the white-throated sparrow. On the tail, some birds have a white stripe at the tail. They might have a different color along the sides. Underneath the tail, like the catbird that we have here, actually can have a different color as well. The catbird has kind of a rusty color too. So keeping that all into consideration is important. As you kind of go on and are figuring things out, there are different colorations for certain species between the males, the females, and the juveniles. So right now, we're not in nesting season, so we don't really have to worry too much about the juveniles unless there's like a first-year plumage difference. And for the most part, we're just focusing on our males and our females. So once you kind of know what size and shape of a bird you're looking at, you can take a look at, okay, is it a male, is it female, what matches, what doesn't, you know? Behavior is also another thing you can look at, and it's one of my favorite things. It provides little tips and tricks of things you might have missed the first time when you were looking at other identification factors. Posture and behavior, like tail flicks. The eastern phoebe has a tendency to flick its tail while it's kind of staying still because it helps distract predators, while there is an eastern wood pewee that looks very similar to an eastern phoebe but does not flick its tail. Okay? Bobbing movements or walking patterns. You can tell a dove is a dove by the way that it walks, right? And with woodpeckers, you can tell the way that they move and how they stay upright, what you're looking at. Goldfinches have a specific flying pattern, so they actually will kind of flap their wings and then do a little bit of dip before flapping their wings and doing a little bit of a dip. So these are all little things, some more advanced than others, that can give away what species you're looking at. Foraging style is also a really fun one that I enjoy. Chickadees are gleaning birds, so they will go underneath leaves and grab things from cocoons and insects, and they're very rapid in their movements. They have a lot of fluttering patterns. Kinglets are very similar, but you wouldn't see that kind of behavior from a woodpecker that's going to cling to the trunk of a tree or some of the larger branches. House finches, if you guys have seen some of them, if they're at the feeders, they'll just stand there and eat compared to a chickadee that dines and dashes. While white-throated sparrows will kind of scratch the leaf litter to find certain insect materials or seed items that it can have. So identifying where you're seeing the bird, the type of movements that it's making, what kind of food it's eating, can also be very helpful. Along with that, the habitat or the location of the bird can also be a really dead giveaway. So, for example, let's say you're over in California and you see a warbler that you think might be a pine warbler. So you double check in your book and you find, oh, wait a minute, the pine warbler is actually only found on the eastern side of North America. So in some cases, very rarely, if there's a bad storm or things like that, you can find a bird well blown off its course. So sometimes it happens, but more realistically, it's usually a bird that looks very similar to the one that you think it is. So Looking at those details is all very important, but double checking the habitat and the range map can also be very helpful. A lot of different maps look different in different books. Usually it's color patterns or changes there, but for the most part, for what I reference, there's usually 4 different color patterns. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot that I didn't move my face back up. Thank you for letting me know. So sorry about that. I thought I had it all under control and a fancy trick, and I completely forgot. Anyways, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we're looking at the range map here, right? So in this case, we've got the purple area, which is the year-round range, the summer area, which is this orange color. That's their nesting area. Then you've got the yellow here, which can be found primarily through their migration patterns. And then you have the blue area here, which can be found in their wintering range. So year-round, they're found in the purple location, and they kind of spread things out depending on the time of year. So not all birds have the same range. It can be different coverage. So paying attention to that can be very helpful in the long run as well, too. All right. And again, if you guys have any questions or if there's something you want to see that I missed because my face was in the way, definitely feel free to let me know. I have no problem backtracking as well too. Lastly, we do have one thing about the songs versus calls of these birds. So while a lot of birds can make many different sounds, usually they're in 2 different categories. You have a song and you have a call. Songs, we're just now getting into the season where we're going to be hearing a lot of those. Songs happen primarily during nesting season or right during courtship times for mating displays, territory announcements, and intimidation. They're usually performed by males, but some species, both males and females, will perform it. These are usually more complex, and they're honestly a lot of fun to listen to. Calls are less complex but more difficult to identify. They're used by males, females, and juveniles alike, and they help coordinate certain behaviors such as warning alarms, location calls, mobbing predators. So if you ever hear a lot of chatter from birds nearby, it could be that they're warning of something going on, whether it's a predator in the area or a type of danger to look out for. It never hurts to kind of take a peek as to what's going on. Some examples of this, we do have an eastern towhee in our location where their song is "Drink Your Tea," and it's very iconic. The call of an eastern towhee is a simple towhee, but it says its name, so you can still figure out which bird that is. Meanwhile, the northern cardinal goes birdie, 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 but its call is just a standard chip. And a lot of birds do a standard chip. So when you're kind of getting used to identifying songs and calls, start with a lot of your local birds that you see all the time. Really kind of get an idea of what they sound like. Again, All About Birds, which is the website I referenced with the taxonomy, has a really good online resource to find out general things about the birds in your backyard, as well as different songs and calls, different volumes to kind of figure out what your bird sounds like through different times of year as well too. So keeping all that in mind can be very helpful as well. And honestly, that's kind of all I have to say in regards to like the standard songbird identification, and as well with the backyard bird count. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Definitely, I'm going to give it an extra minute because there was a lot to kind of think of. But for those that are interested, we do have a $5 off 25 coupon code for those in the area. The coupon code is COUNT. It's only available today, either through in-store or phone order as well too. We'll be having a second viewing of this presentation in-store at 11 a.m. as well. These are the resources that I use too. Birdcount.org, again, is the reference for the backyard bird count, which is, again, 17th through the 20th, so it's happening right now. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of a good idea of what resources to check on to actually get involved. Whether you're a novice birder or you're doing this for years, it's always good to get an extra set of eyes out there to get a better snapshot of what's going on as well, too. And again, All About Birds as well is a great resource if you haven't checked it out before as well, too. And again, eBird is the website to go on to double check the checklists and add those in so it actually counts towards the bird count as well. So with that, that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm not seeing any questions coming in, so I'm going to assume hopefully I explained everything well enough and my face being in the middle of the presentation wasn't too distracting. But, you know, you plan for some things and they don't always happen. So yeah, again, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to post it afterwards. I'll be looking at the comments to double check everything as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you're ready to count some birds, and let me know how the results go. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.